Cancer. So I was going to redo the first part of your reading, and then I realized there's just so much raw goodness in it that I'm not going to. It's just very fidgety, and the more that we transition into your season, because I'm recording this while we're transitioning, the more I feel very connected to your energy. You've come through a lot of triumphs internally for a while now, especially post eclipse. You and Capricorn being in the eclipses post that time. And I know I talk about it a lot, but it was just so transformative, I think, for me, because I have third and fourth house in Cancer, as well as it just affects the way I communicate, especially. So here you are in your season, and you're feeling quite capable, you're feeling quite productive, you feel the strength and the energy from Mercury being in Gemini, and you find yourself coming to this place where you realize where everything comes from, possibly where all of this, you're able to connect something that you haven't been able to before, that without this constant ebb and flow the past year, this like only so much can be in your control, only so much you're able to be responsible for, not because you intentionally and decided to change that, but mainly because it was almost forced upon you, and then it started to trickle and to happen. Things that you may feel throughout the month that there's a weight that comes off your shoulders. Something that you were trying to force, maybe even a pressure or the buildup. You might be even feeling the buildup to your season, and you start to feel that buildup again this month, and you realize it's just because there's a wave being built, there's a current being directed, there's a current being shifted, and you know how quickly things can change in your season. Like, some people have to start preparing beforehand because there's an undertow, because there's things can go this way and that way, and you need to be able to be centered within yourself, centered within the space that you hold, because your emotions are all over. They're not just like moving from the top part of you in your brain. They're stored throughout your body, and that's a big one to remember. And that's something that you know innately. You know that you need to move, you know that you need to keep going. You're not someone who likes to stay stuck. Even if you are, it's not your favorite place to be, and sometimes it's a very contemplative place. You'll find, however, if that you choose to use your own fertile grounds and see that whatever's been taken away or deducted from your life, it's most likely for the better. Hold on, I just want to open this a little more. It's most likely for the better. There's a reward, there's a victory, a sense of victory throughout the rest of the season. And this month, you realize how discerning you truly are. You realize how many people around you actually may not be. There's something about how you haven't done certain things, or you've stopped yourself from trying things because of maybe reactions you've gotten from other people, and that's not you. You do things the way you like to do them, and you see them through until you're done. Or you go with it and allow the experiment, allow other people to be involved with the way it's moving and working. There's something closing and something beginning. This is a true expanding for you. This is a huge thing that I've been thinking about, especially in Gemini season, being it relating to the various transitions. Hold on one second. So it's like going from the hands and the lungs, and especially this month, there's this something about breath, the inhalation and the exhalation. And sometimes I can't get the words out fast enough for my own breath. However, it's a reminder to slow down. So I'm not saying to slow down your currents, because you're not going to be able to regardless. There's so much raw energy that you're taking from this season, and if you apply it in the ways that are important to you and very centered, you'll find this month to be a lot different. You'll find that whatever walls you needed to soften before are more easy to break through. The vulnerability is real, however, it's a victorious vulnerability. There is a reason for it all. Not that you need one. you know that you do things for your own reasons, and that's all that matters. And that's something that people can learn from you this month too. So don't be afraid to be overly generous, not saying with your exactly with your words and what you go through. Yeah, you can do that, but maybe with like true advice, even if it's just within conversation. It doesn't have to be like, hey, I'm giving you advice, but within conversation you might find these little nudges of people asking for help. And this month you're going to be more than willing, because you'll find that it won't be the same amount or the same encounter every time. There's this habit, there's this thing that's been going on for a while within you that is really shifting right now, and you're finally coming, it's finally coming to a head, and you're finally like, okay, I'm about to ride this wave out wherever it goes, however far it ripples. Like, I'm ready for it, because I can't push this anymore. It's telling me I don't want to be pushed. It's telling me to hold back, to wait. And if there's anything I can learn going into my season, it's to do that. And I suggest that, because it being the body parts, the breast, the stomach, the same thing with that, the moon rules and the digestion, you have time to digest. That's what happens with you guys. That's a perfect way to put it, is that when you put something fully out there that you've worked on, that it's very personal to you, especially if you're someone who is doing that and being more creative and in that part of your life, or within the job, the structure, the family that you're in, you're taking what you do and you're personalizing it, even within the structure that you're in. If you're creating a structure, it's becoming your own unique way. And I know there's always this part that's like, but this hasn't been done yet. I don't know, but I see it so clearly. The best thing you could ever do is just go with it, because more than likely you're digesting and when you put things out there, when you create something, when you extend your personal energy, or if you have this in the very personal placements of your house systems, you have this way of helping other people digest their emotions, their feelings, because you can hold it. Because you know that you're not carrying it. When you're a Cancer whose digestion is very clean, and you're digesting regularly, and if you're not, I suggest, there's a few things. You don't want to take my advice, but tongue scrapers are great. Maybe brushing teeth, tongue scraping right in the morning, because actually when you digest in the evening, so let's go to the nighttime, the moon, where you're the most strongest, that's when you're digesting everything, and it's digesting onto your tongue. And so I've done that for years, and I used to have very poor digestion. There's a lot going on in my life at the time, but I have Cancer in the 3rd and 4th house, like I told you. It's very personal placements, communication, everything like that. And your intuition is a part of your digestion, is a part how you go with your life, whether you know it or not. Your stomach is a huge part of that too. It's not just like what your gut feeling is, it's an everywhere sensational feeling when you're that clear, because it's running throughout your waters, Cancer, running throughout the water within you. Charging your water, that's changed my life as well. So I, Virgo moon, only offer advice that has worked for me. I'll never give you advice that I haven't tried, haven't used, and has not worked for me, and I've digested fully. And so when you're able to take what was happening in life, in your life, and you don't realize that it's also going on with other people, but you do know, and that's why it feels so much bigger sometimes, that it's not just you that's feeling this. That's not just you that's creating this, it's a part of you. And when you give a part of you, you're giving a part of life as well. And one of my favorite quotes, I forget who says this, but when you know yourself, you know the world. And I do feel like that's true. The more you come into self-awareness, you realize that nothing's really far from yourself. No concept is something you don't really go through. And so you can use this time to take your time with digesting all the information that you learned in Gemini season, what's come out about people. You may have had to have a strong stomach this month. You may have learned things about people that you didn't think were going to come out, especially if it was a Gemini or a Sagittarius here. The Mercury, the retrograde, and then moving from Taurus to Gemini was allowing you to see how things can be very covered in comfort. That comfort is a place you like to be, but it's not a place that you like to stay. You like comfort when you're able to be yourself, when you're able to express yourself That's comfortable to you. You like your coziness in spots and maybe in food, just like Tauruses do too. But then when you come to Gemini season, Gemini and Mercury, things switch up. Gemini's also in Mercury or Venus right now. Sorry. And until the 22nd. And I think that more than ever, it wakes you up and it makes you realize something. It makes a part of you that's been dormant for a while, wake up within you. And it could be a part of this Saturn retrograde as well. So Saturn's in retrograde in Aquarius. But it also could be a father figure. It could be something that you realize from Capricorn season. By the time the Capricorn new moon arrives on the 28th, this may all come to a full circle, come to a head. That not even you can rush what you want to do. And you know that, but in your season, you're even reminded sometimes. So you find yourself seeing very clearly the way that people see themselves in your month, things that may needed more nurturing than you wanted to lead on, things that need your attention more than you like to lead on, or they'd like to lead on. You giving energy that, yes, may make you feel or serve a part of you, but overall, you know you don't have the energy to do that right now, and this year has taught you that. So that you're really deciphering, and your season in the retrograde is making you understand that this is about reparenting yourself. And in this month, everybody gets that. You get a nice wave, but you also have to face this. So the cards say, be you're victorious at the end. Like there's this fruit that comes from it, especially if you are creating something, you are putting something out there. More than likely, and this is what you're also showing me, that when you really do something you care about, which you always most likely care about your work to some extent, you come up against resistance. You come up against all these different things that can add to the pressure that no one else is putting on you but yourself. Pray to take it off. That really helps me. Or do something that if you know this is real for you, you know that that's a part of the weight that is involved in this. This is the part of the substance that is created from this. This is a part of letting go of the deception that the devil can bring you, that with all these things that Capricorn brings people sometimes, is that if you have all this, or you have all this knowledge, or you attain this status, you'll be fine. Like Cancer really doesn't care about that. Cancer's like, if you are a Cancer who weighs upon your ego too much, you can experience that, don't get me wrong. So just so you know, this is not something you cannot experience, but for the most part, if you're a Cancer who has that in check, who learns to take your falls just as gracefully as your wins, and not over shout your name, and not overly, put yourself in that position of being seen. It's just more about you helping where your waters help, like what you do and how it becomes, your currency can become a ripple effect. So by the 28th and after that, there will be a rollout of what and why things are moving a little bit more slow for you in terms of the way you put things out there, the way that you show yourself. You may feel like you want to cover yourself a little bit more, but you may seem to be very vulnerable with the people that you trust around you. You may be very just like have something that you want to share with the world, but you're just not ready yet. And by the end of the season, you feel very capable, very ready. Oh, sorry. The full moon in Capricorn on the 13th. I apologize. It's the 13th is the full moon in Capricorn. I was looking at the new moon in Cancer, but maybe that has some of course it's going to have some significance for you. I think that's going to bring out even more the raw potential energy. And when you utilize that, there's always that, in the movies when you see like that superhuman or superhero or whatever use so much of that raw potential, and then they get kind of hurt, and their body hurts in some type of way because they've given so much of themselves. You're going to notice that, and you're going to understand what that takes. And regardless of what anyone else feels or how you were raised to work, how you were shown what that looked like, you're now flipping it. You're now having this beautiful opening happen within that very internal structure, very deep structure. So Saturn being an outer planet, it's seeping into so many different areas and so many refined areas in your life that you don't even know until you start really looking at it, pulling out those parts and implementing different parts. And you realize, like, the more that you heal the most personal parts of yourself, you realize where that extends to in your life, and that's everywhere. That's the network, that's the water. So you feel super triumphant by the end of the month, regardless if it's just, you may find an influx of money and realize what you truly have, but it's this overall gratitude for who you are, how you handle things, how you handle life, who's around you now. Like, that's the most important. Who's really around you right now? What are those people showing you with yourself? What is it reminding you that all the boundaries that you may have created, for the most, if you have been doing that, and all of the love you've been giving to yourself, you have that extra to give to people without feeling like you're being taken for granted this month, because you actually have that to give towards the end of the month, where we come to the full moon, or towards the end of the season, when we come to the full moon on the 13th. By the end of there, you'll see that this victory has even been maybe exhausting, and you're kind of like, okay, cool. But then Venus comes into your sign, and you may feel very apt to share very loving and actually smart, intelligent things to the world, probably a mixture of both. Or you find your way of having to express your love and your interest for things that can help people, especially financially, if you're someone who's really good with that. So you might find that you feel, especially Cancer risings, very connected to the part of you that wants to share what it takes to love and be this exuberant person, and almost seeing yourself outside of yourself, but also the beauties in it, the ease in it, the understanding that you don't have to prove anything to anyone, but it's all in how you decide to reparent, remother yourself, and maybe showing the sequential things that happen during that time that may come to fruition for you, and you may want to share. And like I said, I've said it a few times. However, that's obviously up to you and how you do that, but you overall, by the end of the month, you feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude for your nature, and it's going to begin to extend and give you more rewards than you were even asking for. You might feel really lucky by the end of the month, in a way that anything that you went through, it doesn't matter anymore. You just are so on your path right now, and it's important not to get overwhelmed with anything, or don't let anyone make you feel overwhelmed. You can handle anything, but also know what you can't handle in each moment, because that's also handling things. You know what I'm saying? I know you get it. All right. I'm so happy I get to spend a little extra time with these now. It's nice to be able to not feel, and even though it comes out still in rather a shorter period of time, I get to spend more time elaborating what I mean on things, and what a great season to be a little bit more personal, more intimate. A season that I actually like to have conversations more in is Cancer season. Just as much as I love my alone time and personal time, I feel very in that nurturing space where you are creating something, you don't want anyone to see it, where you feel very much where you're supposed to be. All right, Cancer, I'll see you next month. Happy birthday. I didn't say that at all. Happy birthday.